viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program, Africa Today. In today's edition, we are going to talk about the Africa which is emerging as a global growth engine in the world, and Egypt's growing role in the African infrastructure as well as its infrastructure and economy. That would be our topic for discussion for our episode today. But first, we'll start with this report where Africa is witnessing one of its fastest phases of infrastructure expansion, with Egypt is placing itself at the center of the transformation from energy interconnection to the transport corridors. Cairo is pushing for stronger regional integration.
Africa's infrastructure gap remains one of the continent's biggest challenges, with the African Development Bank estimating that more than 600 million people still lack access to electricity. In recent years, Egypt has expanded its partnership with African states, focusing on energy, roads, and digital transformation. In 2025, Cairo intensified work on Egypt-Sudan electricity interconnection, a project expected to supply thousands of homes with stable power. Similar projects are underway with Libya, while talks continue on exerting the grid towards East Africa. Transport has also become a major priority to Cairo-Cape Town highway, a long-discussed dream in seeing renewed attention, with Egypt completing significant upgrades on its northern segments. Officials say the project will radically cut travel time and boost trade, offering African countries a direct link through North Africa. Egypt is also expanding training programs through the Egyptian Agency for Partnership for Development, hosting African engineers, diplomats, and economists for capacity building programs in Cairo. As Africa pushes for deeper interconnection, Egypt aims to play a key role, positioning itself as a hub of energy, trade, and development across the continent.
Climate change continues to hit Africa's food system hard, from the droughts to the floods, leaving millions of people vulnerable. Egypt is expanding initiatives to support the food security across the African continent.
Across Africa, extreme weather patterns are reshaping agriculture. Eastern Africa has faced years of drought followed by destructive rains, while West African countries report declining crop yields. According to regional organizations, food insecurity threatens more than 250 million people. Egypt, one of the region's leading agricultural innovators, has been increasing cooperation with African states. Cairo recently intensified training for African specialists at the Desert Research Center and Agricultural Research Center, helping countries adopt drought-resistant crops, smart irrigation techniques, and sustainable water management. Egypt has also supported African participation in the Intra-African Trade Fair, encouraging cooperation in agricultural technology and seed development. Meanwhile, Egypt's experience with solar-powered irrigation is gaining interest from Sahel countries seeking low-cost solutions. At the diplomatic level, Egypt continues to highlight Africa's climate vulnerabilities at international forums, stressing the need for financing to support adaptation and resilience. As climate pressure grows, Egypt's support for African agricultural systems aims at strengthening resilience and secure continent's food future.
Africa's economy is entering one of the most dynamic phases. Driven by younger population, new trade agreements, and growing investment, Egypt is working to position itself as a central hub for trade and industry across the African continent.
Africa is projected to be one of the world's fastest growing regions in the coming years, with sectors like manufacturing, logistics, and digital services expanding rapidly. Much of the momentum is linked to the African Continental Free Trade Area, the world's largest free trade zone by number of countries. Egypt has been among the strongest supporters of the agreement, promoting the free movement of goods and investment across African markets. Cairo has hosted several events helping African companies connect and encouraging joint ventures in manufacturing, agriculture, and technology. Trade between Egypt and African countries has been rising, supported by new shipping routes and logistical services. The government recently announced expansions to industrial zones such as the Suez Canal Economic Zone, offering African companies a gateway to both regional and global markets. Egypt is also boosting its presence in East, West, and Central Africa through trade missions and exhibitions. Agreements in the pharmaceutical, construction materials, and food industries have opened new opportunities for Egyptian exporters. Meanwhile, African investors are increasingly looking to Egypt as a stable base with strong infrastructure, energy capacity, and access to international markets. As Africa's economy accelerates, Egypt aims to deepen its role as a regional trade hub, linking African business, supporting industrial growth, and investing in the continent's economic future.
And to shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Mohamed Ezaby, Professor of International Relations. Dr. Ezaby, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
How are you, sir?
Fine.
Dr. Ezaby, how is Africa's youthful population shaping the continent's economic growth prospect over the next decade?
Well, Africa's population is the world's youngest, with over 60% under age 25, projected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050, up from 1.4 billion today. By 2035, more young Africans aged 15 to 24 will enter the workforce annually than the rest of the world combined, adding about 500,000 more 15 years olds yearly through 2035. This year's pulse could drive rapid growth harnessed through investment in education, skills, and jobs, potentially boosting per capita by up to 88% by 2050 via human capital gains. Sub-Saharan African alone will see 1 billion new labor force entrant by 2100, offering a demographic dividend similar to East Asian post-boom.
Yes. Doctor, what key sectors are actually expected to drive Africa's economic momentum under the AFCFTA, the Free Trade Agreement framework?
Well, the African continental free trade area, effective since 2021, could add $450 billion to African income by 2035, lifting 30 million from extreme poverty and boosting intra-African trade by 45%. K drives, including service, 397.6 billion gain, and natural resources materials, $66.5 billion. Priority sector under AFCFTA, guided trade initiative, agriculture, automotive, pharmaceuticals, and transport, logistics offer high large job creation and inclusion. Agribusiness and industry benefits most, with agri-food exports up 14% in 2022. Digital service, for example, ICT, e-commerce, grow 11% in 2023, while mining for critical minerals, cobalt, lithium, supports the energy transition. Food system, cold chain, and infrastructure addresses $7 to $15 billion annual climate losses, project to hit $50 billion by 2030.
Yes, sir. How is Egypt positioning itself as a major trade and logistic hub within the African continent?
Well, Egypt is leveraging in Suez Canal, handling 12% of global trade, and the strategic location to become Africa's top logistic gateway, with East Port ranking third globally in efficiency. 2024 The Suez Canal Economic Zone has drawn $11.6 billion in investment from 2060 to 2025, creating 52,705 jobs via 37 projects in Antara West alone, upgrades at 14 ports and 5 new ones. For example, $1.5 billion at Sokhna East Port Said, doubling capacity to 10 million to support the African trade. Digitalization is key. 65% of operators use electronic customs cutting clearance at 48 hours. Partnerships like Alibaba's regional center and Gumia, 27,000 warehouse enhanced e-commerce. Egypt targets by 2025 up from 8.3 billion, focusing on financial logistic hubs in Kenya, infrastructure like 7 logistic corridors, Red Sea Mediterranean, and $4,762 billion in transport projects positions. Also, Egypt as a bridge to sub-Sahara markets, attended FDI in the green energy and manufacturing.
Yes. So what role do large infrastructure projects such as ports, industrial zones and transport corridors play actually in strengthening Egypt's trade links with the African markets?
Well, these projects are pivotal, transforming Egypt into 370 million ton port capacity hub by 2030 from 120 million in 2016, reducing trade costs and boosting AFCFTA integration, Suez Canal zones, ports. For example, East Port Said African top container terminal and 1 billion Antara West Zone textile logistic create export corridor to Africa with 70% of production for export. The 10 years 100.7 billion plan covers road bridges, $30.1 billion railway, 14.3 billion for maritime, 7.3 billion linking industrial zone to dry ports. So 7 corridors, Tanta, Mansoura, Damietta, for agri-export, cut transit time to 1 day, enhancing links to Libya, Sudan, rail upgrades, 63.5 kilometer Rubeki, 10th Ramadan Bilbis, connected to Comesa market.
Yes, how can Egypt actually leverage the African Continental Free Trade area to expand its export to the African countries?
Well, the African Continental Free Trade Area offers Egypt a $3.4 trillion market of 1.3 billion people, potentially adding 5.7% to GDP, 48.2 billion by 2043, and fostering exports 21 to 30% as a top intra-African exporters, 22.5% of Comesa. Egypt can traffic tariff free access, 32 new partners, for example Nigeria and South Africa, trading 6.7 billion opportunities, 4 billion untapped, focusing on agri-food, textile, leather, and service.
Yes. Doctor, what challenges continue to hinder the intra-Africa trade, and how can Egypt contribute to overcoming these challenges from your point of view, Doctor?
Well, intra-African trade is just 15%, was 68% for Europe, 54% for Asia, hampered by poor infrastructure. For example, $7 to $15 billion annual climate losses, non-tariff barrier, financing gaps, 331 billion shortfall, and regulatory complexities. Informal trade inflates figures, but evidence benefits. Logistic costs triple airfares for cross-border sourcing. Egypt, with 8.3 billion intra-trade, 4.3% total, can lead the Suez Canal Zone, 11.6 billion investment formalization, flows, and for African free trade area pilots. For example, 96 products as a Commission member is shares finite. For example, in the pay for payment, reducing the FX risk, infrastructure like 7 corridors. So 1.5 billion port upgrades, cut times. That's what Egypt done for the trade.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Mohamed Ezaby, Professor of International Relations, thank you so much, sir, for your very precious input. Always a pleasure. And our dear viewers, that would bring us to the end of this edition of our program, Africa Today. Many thanks for watching.